If in addition to buying Expediate, you've bought Expediate accounts, let's look at how we pass that information over to help you just do law. So sending clients and matters to our accounts package. Really important, clean and accurate and complete data. It's so important that clients and matters passed from Expediate to accounts be correct. So take your time. This is the company's accounts we're talking about. We can't afford to be populating it with inaccurate data. You don't want to be spending your time afterwards trying to clean it up again. So let's start then. Here's a file I've created. I've given it a distinct name. It knows it's my file and what file type it is. Let's go and add our client. Add client and let's search for our Joe Brown. I know it's the one on Moby Road. So when I double click, it's asking me here, am I sure Joe is the correct client? Because once I've added him, I won't be able to remove him. Go yes. Would I like to pass to accounts? Yes. Let's see what that does. On the summary page of the file now, can you see that in the Expediate accounts code, I now have BRJ002, which is the root of Joe's code, and this is matter 005 for him. Notice now, because I've passed him to accounts, I cannot actually remove him. I can't remove him from this file now. Now, if you think about it, that makes sense. We can't go willy-nilly within the accounts package going and changing the client on the different matters. So if despite all the different prompts, you've still made a mistake and put the wrong client on the file, you will have to go and speak to your accounts person to go and change it. Now, how quickly we can start working in that file really is, we need to give it a couple of minutes before we start passing information over. But I'd say it should be there now. Going into activity, let's do a letter to the client. We'll use a template. There's our initial letter to the client. Presume I've made my changes I want there. Now I could change the time here now and say we spent 11 minutes on that. Do I want to pass to accounts? This is the important bit. We'll go yes. Now look what it's done there. Can you notice the icon? If you didn't have accounts before, that icon would have just been a paperclip indicating it was a letter to the client. Now that that letter's been passed to accounts, the icon is changed to this little symbol here indicating that. Let's say I'll do and this time I'm not doing an attachment, it's purely a note on the file, and I'm going to pass it to accounts. Can you see how that icon looks a little bit different? Let's say we're doing something else, and we'll see the variety of different icons we can have within a file. So let's say that's something else on the matter. Hit save. This time I'm going to say no, I don't want to pass it to accounts, because there may indeed be times when you might have a few drafts of a letter, etc., and you only want to send the final one over. So there will be times when you'll say no and you won't pass something over to accounts. So far, can you see there what we've got? Let's go and have a look now in the accounts and see how does that look. Time passed from Expediate, the front office, doesn't go automatically into the client's matter in accounts. It sits in a holding bay, and it's only when it's imported, and that's down to the bookkeeper. It's a process we can either have automated for her, or some people prefer to do it manually themselves. And it's done through importing time. Now, that'll do an import there for me, and I can minimize that. Now, if I go in and look for the client, I can search by client name, matter, or for client number. Let's search for Joe Brown. And I can see there's a few Joe Browns I've got there. Here's the one, property at Springfield. Okay, notice there, look at his address. It's the same address as the information we passed over from Expediate. So there's the time saving. We didn't have to go in and enter that whole client details into a separate accounts package. Also, work in progress, these are the items we sent over. So if I call up the client again in Expediate, you can see 3 matters were passed to accounts, and there were 2 matters were passed to accounts, and there's 3 of them within Expediate. Let's look at how we get other types of activities onto the file and into the accounts. Going into phone messages, I have one here from this client. So if I put a few notes and say it was dealt with, I get the option to link it to the file. Now at this point, The reason it's showing me what's going on the file is to give me the option to interact with the time. I might say, forget the default 6 minutes. We were on the phone for 22 minutes there, and you can see how it's recalculating. And we'll save that. Do you want to pass it to accounts? Yes, please. Let's go into Outlook then. In our calendar, if we had a meeting in, we can expedite link it to the file again. And again, when we're putting it on the file, we're given the option to modify the time. So this time we might say, forget units, we met him for an hour, and the recalculation is happening there. Send to accounts, yes. And what if we had an email that we want to expedite link? Same logic. Now, often you'll find that people's subject lines of emails isn't very good, so you could rename the synopsis there. It'll be automatically prefixed with the word email, and it'll either come in with the subject line or whatever you type in. So let's now look in the client's file to see how those items we've passed over appear. So we can see where we've said within Outlook, either for the diary or the appointment, pass to expedite, and then also pass to accounts. So it's picked up the icon to know that it has also gone to accounts. And if we look in the accounts package, I've already done the import here. There's our matter. There's the time on it. And we can see if there's an icon against it here, it's gone over into the accounts and the client's work in progress. Okay, well, let's recap. What have we seen so far? Well, we've looked at adding a client to a file, passing the two of them to the accounts package, and then we've looked at passing each activity from expedite over to our accounts. What do we want to look at next? Well, what if you're working in the same activity more than once? What if you want to change the hourly rate? And also, it'll be handy to look at how do we report on all the activities that we pass to accounts. Let's say we're working within our file and we're doing a preparation of contract, and we've been sitting here for maybe an hour and 30 minutes working on this. Save, yes, pass to accounts, and got interrupted, there's other stuff going on, or we get back to it tomorrow, and there's more to be done on that file. We want to pick up on the preparation of the contract. Notice that even if I change this, I'm not going to get prompted again to pass it to accounts. It's already gone. So if I want to show more time on that preparation of contract, I would do a note saying further work. And I would show that I spent another hour working on that. Now I can pass that to accounts. So you can't pass the same item twice to accounts. There's no point in me going in here to the contract and saying I spent more time, because it's not going to prompt me to pass to accounts again. That's there for a valid and good reason, in that once things have gone across as work in progress, we don't want to be giving people the opportunity to extract them and pull them back or modify them. You can add more, or in fact, if you've decided perhaps you've been a bit heavy-handed, we can go and look at it in accounts as to how that can be modified. But once it's left expedient and gone over, it's gone. You cannot change it through this route anymore. Let's look at the next one. Notice every time I go add, it's pulling up the rate here, my hourly rate, because it's my file. Let's say somebody else was working on this. See here, it's telling us the hourly rate there is changing. It's warning me, and we can see that it's gone to 125. Let's look at that. That's only happening, and it will only take effect if, yes, let's pass that to accounts, if in the settings page of my expedite, I have time and billing by author being applied. Time and billing by author means instead of applying by default the hourly rate of the file owner, there are some instances in which perhaps I'm another file owner, I'm another fee earner, and if I'm working on somebody else's file, I want my rate to apply, not theirs. Secretarial staff who do not have their own hourly rate should never have this ticked. This, by the way, is a local setting per PC. So if you don't have that ticked, let's see what happens. Now I've re-entered expedite with time and billing by author not applied. Notice this time if I go add and I change it to somebody else's name, give it a synopsis, do you notice there how nothing happens in terms of changing the hourly rate? It merely asks me, do I want to pass to account? That makes sense 9 times out of 10. It doesn't matter who's physically typing the documentation, who's putting it on the file. 9 times out of 10, it's the fee earner who's initiated the work being done, whoever's owning the file, and by default it should be their rate. So you normally would only want time and billing by author ticked in your settings and applying if you also have your own rate, but on occasion you will work on somebody else's file and you do want your own rate applying. Let's check out one last thing here, and that is reporting on time and billing. Going back to the home page, I can go into reports. Now we know reports come under 4 headings. Reports to do with files, clients, contacts, or time and billing. That's the one we want. And in advanced time and billing, I get various criteria by which I could search. Fee earner, meaning I want to report on anybody who owns files, so that's regardless of who's typed it. Or if I select author, that would be saying it doesn't matter who owns the file, show me work done by an individual in a time frame. Other criteria I have, and come on down here, it says search for activities passed to accounts. So let's say I want to see stuff in my files that's been passed to account, and I want to set a time frame. Let's say the time frame of being the past 2 days. And it's showing me here in a grid view, this is what I've passed over. If I go print, there we go, I can see that in the past 2 days I've accounted for 2 hours and 43 minutes. So that's work done on my file. You can see there one of them was done by the author, JB. You remember I changed those initials to be somebody else? Let's see how different it is if I say not by fee earner, by author. Again, passed to accounts, and it's again an and in terms of the dates, today and yesterday. As we'd expect, I'm only seeing 2 items because one of them was done by somebody else, remember.